Hey guys, William Murfitt here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. In today's episode I am turning my attention to my Renault Clio and it failed the MOT on front brakes. So today we're going to be replacing the front discs and pads. Let's get into it.
I know you don't love me like you say you do.
Okay, so you can see that the disc is pretty scored. This is the better of the two sides. It is a bit, the surface of the disc is actually a little bit wavy as well. That's heat distortion really. So yeah, I need some torque to get the hub off. And then I can turn this, the car, and then axle stand for safety. Where are you on? Right, that's good. Okay, right. The weight of the car is now on the axle stand, so that's all good. Okay, so the wheel off, and I can turn it to the wheel to the side. I've got a bolt at the bottom and a bolt at the top, which are the two need to come off. With them two off, that can then release the brake caliper. The caliper can dangle, but I like to just cable tie it to the spring just to make sure that it's not going to sort of drop and damage anything. Once that's off, the carrier caliper can come off. There's two larger bolts behind there. Once they're off, there's two bolts on the discs, which are a Torx nut. They can come off, then everything can then be removed. The old disc, the old pads, the pistons can be pushed back into the caliper. Once that's done, we can then fit the new disc, fit the retaining screws or bolts back in, fit the caliper carrier back on. I will give that a bit of a clean, wire brush up as well. Fit the new pads, fit the caliper back on, bolt it back up. Inside, pump the brake pedal to compress that piston back up to make sure it's gripping onto the pads, the disc. Lower the car down, flip the car around, do the other side, and that is the brakes of the car done. Pretty straightforward. So let's get cracking. Okay, so tools for the job. It's quite a straightforward job itself, but we need to have a select amount of tools. So I've got a 17mm socket and my breaker bar and impact gun to take the wheels off. There's 4 bolts for the wheel nuts. So that's that section and that section done. I'm going to need a 13mm socket for the top and bottom bolts of the caliper. I think it's a 16mm thin spanner, or I'm going to be using these needle nose pliers just to get in there and hold on to that bolt from spinning. Screwdriver to lever out the anti-rattle plates. I've got some big grips to push back the pistons. Wire brush to clean up the caliper carrier. I've got a ratchet, a say 13mm socket, an 18mm socket, and a T40 Torx to undo that nut. I've got a bigger socket as well for an 18mm for that caliper carrier. The breaker bar, as I say, I've used to do the wheel nuts, and I'll probably also use to do the back of the caliper carriers, and then a torque bar, a torque wrench to tighten up the wheel nuts once it's back together. Bit of grease for the brake pads, and that is everything I'm going to need to replace these front disc and pads. So I've just cable tied that caliper up to the spring to get it out of my way. The caliper's off. I can now take the brake pads out, and you can see they're pretty glazed, and they've got a big groove on the top and the bottom. So good job these are getting changed. And the same for the outer pad. Big groove on the top, little groove on the bottom, and the pads themselves. Although they've got quite a bit of friction material left, it's probably for the best I'm replacing these. So the big lever bar is just to try and take that strain out of the ratchet. Obviously you don't want to put too much pressure into these, because unfortunately they will break once they're loosened up. Should be able to just wind them off pretty straightforward. Whilst this hair bolts out, I'm going to clean the head of it up as well, because it's a little bit corroded, which means that my socket keeps falling off. Right, that's the caliper. I can't speak. That is the caliper carrier off. So now all that's left to do is take the two bolts off. You'll have seen previously I did quite using my little breaker bar. I got them to a point, tapped them across just to sort of break that seal really. Once these are off, the disc will come out. And there we have it. The disc is off. You can see it's pretty poor shape behind. This section here, I think half of that should be still brake material, and the top is all damaged as well. So yeah, good call garage. I'm glad you failed these, because they're bad. So let's get replacements. So this is my replacement disc. I just want to make sure before I take it out of the bag that it is the same size, like matched up to each other, and also the centre board is the same, and the holes align as well. Perfect. Be aware of things. Inside this bag they coat the discs in a protective material or protective spray to make sure they don't go rusty on the shelf. So take a bit of brake cleaner, spray it on, wipe it off, and then we can fit them. So we can do that now. Oh, right. That's the disc all cleaned up. So let's mount these back up. And you want to line the screw holes into the screw holes here. That's tight. Oh, right, so the caliper carrier, I'm just going to give a quick clean up using my wire brush. and try and get as much of the crud in the grooves where the shoes or the pads are going to be sliding back and forth. So they will go in the grooves like this, and then they have a slider back and forth, so then as you put your foot on the brake, they basically slide back and forth like so. So you need to make sure that that's nice and clean and free. And yeah. Right, so I've just cleaned inside these grooves here. So that is all now done. I'm just going to clean the actual anti-rattle bits. Before I do that, just want to make sure there's not any new ones in the pack. There's nothing worse than cleaning up old parts and finding out they supplied new bits. Obviously this is the before. Okay, so it's not going to be perfect, but you can see obviously there's a massive improvement there. What you don't want to do is have any sort of like lumps and bumps left over, so as long as it feels nice and smooth inside, we're good. Just over this little step, like so. Pushes down into place. That's the bottom section done. Just clean the top bit now. The last thing to do, just to pop these grooves out, and then just put a little bit of grease on the sliders so that they can slide back and forth nice and freely. Same the other side. And then you want to make sure that that cap is over the locator as well. I'm going to give this head of the nut, I'm going to give the head of the bolt a quick clean. This is where it'd be really beneficial to have a bench grinder, so you can have a wire wheel on there, just clean it up nice and quickly, but on the wish list. Right. It's nice and tight. So the next thing to do is turn my attention to the brake caliper itself. Let's just cut that free. And we can see now the piston. So all I want to do is grab that piston and pinch it back. See if I can do this one-handed. So that for now. Before I do anything, I just want to pop the bonnet and release the brake fluid cap. Oh, try again. Now it's quite awkward because I am right-handed. Let's see if I can have another go. So taking the pipe grips on, just giving a squeeze, and you can see the piston sliding in. There we go. So that now gives, with the piston pushed all the way in, there's all this room here to fit my shoes, fit my pads. I can clean up in here as well, and yeah. If you are wire brushing, just be careful you don't rip any of the caliper seal, because that will not be good. It's not going to be perfect, but that will do for what I want it for. So like I did for the brake disc, I want to do the same with the pads. I'll put them back to back to make sure they all match up. And also front to front, just without touching them, just to make sure that they are the right sort of shape. Now these old ones here, they've got plenty of life left in them, but you can see the amount of friction material that are on the new ones. So it's quite a good thing with replacing them. But if these pads would have been okay, or the discs would have been okay, there's been plenty of life left in them. So, a bit of grease on any point that's going to come in contact with any movement. So along the edge, where the little lug is, that's going to sit in here and that's going to slide back and forward. So I put some grease in there and on there. So they go in at a slight angle and then they just clip into place like so. Then the caliper can go on. That's tight as well. Give it a bit of a knock down just to make sure it is fitted very tight. Give the disc a quick wipe to get rid of my fingerprints. And there we have replacement discs and pads on a Clio Mk3. What you've got to do now, pump the brake pedal out. So at the moment there's plenty of movement there. So if I move it, like, if I zoom you in so you can see in here, you should be able to see, if I can get you high enough, the piston inside pushing them brakes together. So at the moment I can take my screwdriver and I can move that pad around quite freely. So just pump the brake pedal out. Now hopefully you'll have seen that piston move out. So I can put my screwdriver in there now and I can't move that pad whatsoever. There's room for it to move. The second you put that brake pad on, it will bite and not be able to turn. Once it's released, it will be good to go again. So I'll stick the wheel back on. That's that side done. I'll get the car out, turn it around to a bit more space, do the other brake, and then that is the front brakes, both sides complete. Now it is always advisable to replace both together. So if you're going to replace one side because if it's got wear or tear or anything like that, it's always advisable to do both. Please bear that in mind. Some places will not sell you one, like disc. Pads come as a set, front to fronts or rears, but discs are purchased individually. So these ones here were purchased from eBay, discs and pads as a set. So there's 2 discs and a set of pads. It was £42. Garage prices probably charge you pushing £200 for a front brakes or rear brakes, and yeah, you're talking only £400 for the full set. So I've saved myself a heck of a lot of money just doing this, and hopefully you guys can do that too. So let's get the other side done.
Yeah, we are in the place of
bring you in and take you a little look around these. So this is the offside, which is obviously failed on. There's a big lip around here. Inside a big lip as well. This pad, yes, had it. There's not a lot of material there. How it wasn't squeaking, I'm not sure. So this bit here, when the material wears down so far, that's supposed to squeak. And yeah, it's just past it, so that's no good. And yeah, the other side. So not the best, but yeah, as I say, I'm glad I'm replacing them. So if you can compare this one to the new disc, you can see how much more braking material is on this than there is on here, and that's just that little tiny bit, and there's a big groove there. Yeah, they are dangerous. So here we go again. Okay, so that was the disc and pad replacement video. Hopefully you found this beneficial. If you've got a Clio Mk3 and it's a 4-stud or even 5-stud version, the brakes are very, very similar. Hopefully it's a nice guide to just walk you through it. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And as always, if you have enjoyed this content, please click the thumbs up button, comment down below, and if you can, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content. That's it for me today. Hopefully this has been beneficial. I'll see you guys later. Take it easy.